My name's John. Most of you know me. I know we all go to Fremont together. But anyways, my topic is population growth. Let's take a moment to think about population growth and all the effects that it causes. Things like water, food, gas, oats, wheat determines, the wildlife factor as well. So the more humans on Earth, the more things just tend to disappear. The growth of increased supply of several products will help cope with the demand. Annual production of several will need to grow. Like just a production over 2 million tons, a total of 470 million tons by 2050. We need that amount in everything that we have in process already. Investments in almost 100 billion per year for good increases agriculture activity as well, so we need to keep the fuel rates and gasoline, keep that going as well. Population effect on urbanization. More than half of the world's population is living in cities within increasing 1.5%. Changing in landscape often, America landscape, the population is suddenly changing. Think about it. A lot of people we know, having kids now is the trend. Like, just have a kid. That's really trendy these days. Population effect on urbanization continued, determining the communities and wildlife habits as well. Most valuable population will be affected. Us, America, we're going to be affected right, quicker than, believe it or not, Africa and China, even though they have an outrageous amount of human beings already living there. Also, population growth, it affects sanitation. Let's take a moment to think about this. Diarrhea caused by bad sanitation kills nearly 6,000 children a day, an annual toll of 2 million deaths. Population growth is poor sanitation. If we can sanitize locations better, we can limit population growth. Population growth affects 80% of all diseases. Diseases are more prone. They're in more areas. We see them more. We're aware of it. Feces that is on the streets or remains in dense locations. We see this. We see it everywhere. Population growth is leading cause of poverty. Like the more people, the more poverty-ridden nations will thrive to search for resources due to the demands of people and how many people live there. Also, leading cause of poverty is war and starvation. It continues with people can't afford basic fundamental needs that we all need, but unfortunately for population growth, we cannot access these fundamental needs. Also, population growth affects the lives of millions of people around the world. People living in poverty have no access to education. Researchers have shown that when women living in poverty were given to countercept in education, birth rates, diseases, the world's poorest nations have the highest birth and death rates. We think about nations such as Africa, Ethiopia, China, the Russia. There's a lot of poverty there as well. The world's poorest nations, they have more people than the whole United States times two. Nations such as China and Africa, where they had, I think it was up until recently, China had the one-child policy that was implemented in the 1980s, where it limited only one child per household in the Chinese household. So, that being said, China has lifted up that ban, but this is recently I believe, about a couple years ago or so, they lifted this up. And the living standards have increased better in China. I think people are living a lot better in China, and they can give this population one child one policy rule to an end, and I think that's some great things. A recent study also has shown that a recent study of global human numbers revived that exiting populations are already there 3 times the planet's existing carrying capacity. So, in order to provide a substantial life, we need to continue using raw materials. We need more raw materials, more raw wheat, mud, dirt, rocks, and we need to sell these materials for a good price and quality in order for the rest of the world to get them for a decent price. Decent prices in the economy equal better living standards for everyone, including nations that are overpopulated. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you for joining me today. I got my lovely audience, my Zoe and my sister. They thought, join me. So thank you guys.